When my daughter got married, I hid the fact that I inherited $9 million from her grandfather, my father. Thank God I didn't say anything, because after the wedding, her husband showed up with a notary demanding everything. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I just smiled and said something that made their faces turn pale and their hands start to tremble. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I stood in the middle of my living room, the winter chill seeping through the windows of our modest Sioux City home, as Chloe faced me with fire in her eyes. It was January 2024, and the argument had erupted like a storm I hadn't seen coming. She clutched a mock wedding invitation in her hand, the glossy paper crumpling under her grip. "Dad, I'm marrying Eric, whether you like it or not," she shouted, her voice cracking with defiance. I paced the worn carpet, my fists clenched at my sides. How had we gotten here? Just weeks ago, at that awkward family dinner, Eric had belittled my old engineering job, calling it quaint with a smirk that made my blood boil. I'd kept quiet then, for her sake. But now? "Chloe, he's arrogant, self-centered. I've seen how he treats people. Like that text he sent you last month, dismissing your ideas as cute. He's not right for you." She threw the invitation onto the coffee table, where it skidded and knocked over a framed photo of us three, me, Chloe, and her late mother, from happier times. The glass cracked on impact, a sharp sound that mirrored the fracture in my heart. "You're just jealous, because I'm finally happy." "Mom's been gone for 15 years, Dad. You raised me alone, but I need my own life now. Eric loves me. He proposed on that trip to the lakes, remember? Stay out of it." I gripped the edge of the kitchen table, my knuckles whitening against the wood. Memories flooded in unbidden. Chloe as a little girl after her mother's accident, clinging to me during those endless nights. My father, her grandfather, had stepped in then, taking us on fishing trips to the Missouri River, teaching her chess in his cozy den, always whispering advice about spotting users in life. He died just 2 months ago at 80, leaving me that staggering inheritance, $9 million from his savvy investments. I'd planned to tell Chloe eventually, but now? With this rushed engagement? No, something felt off. "Chloe, please," I pleaded, stepping closer. "Think about it. You've only known him a year. Why the hurry?" Her face twisted in anger, tears welling up. "Because I love him, and if you can't support me, then don't come to the wedding." She grabbed her coat from the hook by the door, the fabric rustling like a final goodbye, and stormed out into the snowy night. The door slammed, echoing through the empty house. I sank into the armchair, staring at the cracked photo on the floor. My chest tightened with a mix of rage and sorrow. Raising her had been my everything, scraping by on my pension after retiring early to be there for her school plays, her heartbreaks. Grandpa had helped with the bills, always saying, "Protect your blood, Philip. Family's all we got." And now this Eric, with his flashy real estate job, and that condescending mother of his, Caitlin, who eyed our home like it was beneath her. I picked up the photo, brushing off the shards. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was just ambitious. But deep down, a knot formed in my gut. Chloe's words stung, but I couldn't let her walk into a trap. The inheritance papers sat in my desk drawer, untouched since the lawyer's call. Thank God I hadn't mentioned it yet. If Eric knew... No, I'd keep it hidden. For her safety. For now. As the hours ticked by, the house grew colder, the furnace humming futilely against the Iowa winter. I paced again, replaying the fight, until finally I reached for my phone on the side table. The phone felt heavy in my hand as I dialed Chloe's number, the screen glowing in the dim light of the living room. It rang twice before she picked up, her voice tentative. "Dad, it's late." "I know," I said, leaning against the wall, where family photos hung like silent witnesses. "I couldn't sleep. Chloe, I'm sorry. I overreacted. If Eric makes you happy, then I'll be there. For the wedding." There was a pause, then a soft exhale. "Really? Oh, Dad, thank you. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's just everything's moving so fast, but it's right. You'll see." We talked for a bit, her excitement bubbling through the line as she described the venue. A charming hall in downtown Sioux City, with views of the river thawing in early spring. I forced a smile into my voice, but inside, doubts lingered. After hanging up, I walked to my study, the floorboards creaking underfoot. The desk drawer slid open with a whisper, revealing the envelope from the lawyer. Estate of Harold Sanders. $9 million. I sealed it in a lockbox and pushed it to the back of the closet, bearing the secret like a time capsule. The next weeks blurred into a routine of reconciliation. February brought milder days, the snow melting into slush on the suburban streets. I visited Grandpa's grave at the quiet cemetery on the edge of town, the wind rustling through bare trees as I knelt by the headstone. "You'd know what to do, Dad," I murmured, tracing the engraved dates, 1943, 2023. He'd built that fortune quietly, investing in local properties, while teaching me the value of discretion. "Protect her," he'd said on his deathbed, gripping my hand. Flashbacks hit me there. Chloe at 10, laughing as Grandpa pushed her on the swing in his backyard. Me, widowed and overwhelmed, leaning on him for advice during her teenage rebellions. Back home, I threw myself into wedding preparations to bridge the gap. I attended a fitting at the bridal shop, watching Chloe twirl in her gown, the lace catching the fluorescent lights. "You look beautiful," I told her, hugging her awkwardly amid the mirrors. "Thanks, Dad. Eric's mom is helping with the flowers. Caitlin has great taste." Chloe beamed, but I noted the subtle strain in her smile when she mentioned Caitlin. Then came the planning lunch at a cozy diner off Sargent Road. Eric and Caitlin joined us, their BMW parked conspicuously outside our modest sedans. Eric shook my hand firmly, his eyes scanning the menu with disinterest. "Philip, glad you're on board. This wedding's going to be top-notch." Caitlin, with her perfectly coiffed hair and designer scarf, leaned in. "Yes, we're sparing no expense. Chloe deserves the best." Her tone carried an undercurrent of superiority, as if our family needed elevating. Over sandwiches, conversation flowed, but tension simmered. I overheard Caitlin whisper to Eric, "Make sure the prenup covers everything, just in case." He nodded, smirking. My fork paused midair. Was that greed I detected? Chloe chatted animatedly about honeymoons, oblivious. Later, alone in my car driving home, I gripped the steering wheel tighter. That remark gnawed at me. I stopped by my old friend's office, a lawyer in a strip mall downtown, and casually asked about inheritance privacy. "It's airtight if you don't disclose," he assured me, handing over a pamphlet. "But why hide it?" "Just being cautious," I replied, pocketing it. March arrived with budding trees, and the wedding loomed in April. I helped Chloe pack favors at her apartment, a small place she shared with Eric now. Boxes cluttered the living room, tissue paper crinkling as we worked. "Dad, Eric's been so supportive," she said, tying a ribbon. "He even suggested we buy a house after something bigger." I nodded, but inwardly alarms rang. His real estate background made sense, but the push felt calculated. "Sounds ambitious. Just make sure it's what you want." She paused, ribbon in hand. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" That night, at a family dinner Eric hosted at their place, Caitlin dominated the talk, boasting about her business deals. Eric chimed in, his arm around Chloe possessively. As dessert was served, pie from a local bakery, the conversation turned to futures. "Philip, you must have some savings tucked away from your engineering days," Eric said casually, his eyes sharp. I deflected with a laugh. "Enough to get by." But his gaze lingered, and Caitlin's smile didn't reach her eyes. As I left, waving goodbye from the porch, a chill unrelated to the evening air settled over me. The wedding was just weeks away, and something in their demeanor whispered trouble. I stepped into the wedding hall in downtown Sioux City that crisp March afternoon in 2024, the floral arches framing the entrance like a deceptive promise of joy. The unease from that family dinner lingered, a knot in my stomach as I adjusted my tie and scanned the crowd. Guests mingled under chandeliers, their chatter blending with soft music, but I caught Caitlin's sharp glance from across the room. She stood beside Eric, both in tailored outfits that screamed excess. The ceremony began promptly. Chloe walking down the aisle on my arm, her veil fluttering slightly. She squeezed my hand, whispering, "Thanks for being here, Dad." I nodded, forcing calm, though my mind raced back to Grandpa's warnings about hasty unions. Vows were exchanged, Eric's voice steady, almost rehearsed, as the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Applause erupted, but I clapped mechanically, watching Eric kiss her with a possessiveness that set my teeth on edge. At the reception, tables groaned under platters of Midwestern fare. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, and salads dotted with local cheeses. I navigated the crowd, greeting relatives, but tension built as I approached the head table. Caitlin intercepted me with a glass of champagne, her smile thin. "Philip, how quaint that you're here alone. No plus one from your, circles?" I accepted the glass, my grip steady. "Family's enough for me, Caitlin. Congratulations on the day." She leaned in, voice low. "Eric's worked hard for this. Chloe's lucky. He'll elevate her beyond, well, what she's known." Her eyes flicked to my simple suit. A jab I ignored, but it stung like salt in a fresh cut. Eric joined us, clapping my shoulder too hard. "Philip! Great turnout. Your toast later. Keep it short, yeah? We've got a schedule." I moved away, finding a seat, but overheard guests murmuring near the bar. "She's marrying up, that's for sure. Her dad's sweet, but that house of theirs—" Heat rose in my cheeks. Chloe danced with Eric, laughing, yet her eyes darted to me occasionally, as if seeking reassurance. The toast came after dinner. I stood, glass raised, heart pounding. "To Chloe and Eric, may your life together be filled with the love and respect Chloe deserves. She's my world, and I trust you'll cherish her as such." Murmurs of agreement followed, but Eric chuckled into his microphone next. "Thanks, Phil. Appreciate the sentiment. And hey, with my deals closing soon, we'll have plenty to cherish. Houses, trips, the works. No more scraping by." Laughter rippled, but it felt pointed, like a veiled insult to my modest life. Caitlin added from her seat, "Indeed. Progress is everything." Chloe shot me an apologetic look, but didn't intervene. I sat down, fists under the table, vowing silently to stay vigilant. This wasn't just arrogance, it reeked of calculation. As the night wore on, we cut the cake, a towering confection with intricate icing that contrasted the bitterness rising in me. I danced with Chloe briefly, her head on my shoulder. "Dad, ignore them. They're just excited." "Excited about what, exactly?" I asked softly, spinning her gently. She hesitated, then smiled. "Our future, it's bright." But as the band played on, I caught Eric whispering to Caitlin, their heads close, gesturing animatedly. What were they plotting? The twist hit during the garter toss. Eric flung it with flair, landing near a group of his colleagues, who whooped. One joked loudly, "Bet on the inheritance next." Eric laughed it off, but his eyes met mine for a split second, sharp and knowing. Did he suspect something about Grandpa's estate? My pulse quickened. Thank God I'd hidden it. The evening wound down with farewells. Chloe hugged me tight outside, the spring air carrying a hint of rain. "Love you, Dad. Honeymoon in the works. Talk soon." I watched their car pull away, taillights fading into the night, that knot of worry tightening. What lay ahead for her in that new life? A week later, my phone rang shrilly in the quiet of my living room, jolting me from a book. It was late March, and the days had dragged with uneasy texts from Chloe, short updates about settling in, nothing deep. Her name flashed on the screen, and I answered quickly. "Chloe? Everything okay?" Her voice broke, sobs punctuating words. "Dad, please come get me. I can't stay here. It's all wrong." My heart slammed. What happened? Where's Eric? "Just come. I'm outside with my things. Hurry." She hung up, leaving me staring at the phone, mind racing. I grabbed my keys from the hook, coat half on, and dashed to the car. The engine roared to life as I peeled out of the driveway, familiar Sioux City streets blurring under streetlights. Rain started pattering on the windshield, mirroring the storm inside me. What had he done? Flashbacks to the wedding joy, her radiant smile, clashed with this nightmare. I'd checked in daily via messages, sensing her replies growing terse, but she'd brushed off my concerns. 15 minutes later, I turned onto their street in the upscale suburb, headlights cutting through the drizzle. Chloe stood on the porch, 2 suitcases at her feet, hair plastered to her face, shoulders shaking. No lights on inside. The house loomed dark and empty. I jumped out, rain soaking my shirt as I rushed to her. "Chloe, get in the car. Let's get your bags." She threw her arms around me, burying her face in my shoulder. "Dad, thank you." "They're not home. Out with his mom, probably celebrating whatever scheme they've got." I loaded the suitcases into the trunk, the thud echoing my resolve. Tell me what happened. Did he hurt you? She slid into the passenger seat, wiping her eyes with a sleeve. Not physically, but it's bad. Let's just go. I need to get away from here. I started the car, pulling away slowly, the wipers swishing rhythmically. The suburb faded behind us, replaced by quieter roads leading back to my place. Start from the beginning. Whatever it is, we'll fix it. She drew a shaky breath, clutching the door handle. After the honeymoon talk fell through, he said work was too busy. We argued. Then yesterday I found papers. Divorce papers, Dad, hidden in his drawer, and messages on his phone. To another woman. He's been planning this. My grip tightened on the wheel, anger surging, but I kept my voice even. Divorce? Already? And cheating? Tears streamed down her face. Worse, he mentioned something about securing assets in a call with Caitlin. I frowned, remembering Grandpa's stories about his property deals. Dad, is he talking about something Grandpa left? You never mentioned a will. I shook my head, brushing it off. Nothing to tell yet, Chloe. Let's focus on getting you out of this first. Like they expected money from you or Grandpa. I confronted him and he laughed. Said I was naive, that the marriage was a step up for me, but now it's not worth it. The twist gutted me, not just betrayal, but premeditated greed. I handed her a tissue from the glove box, our fingers brushing. Why now? What changed? She dabbed her eyes, voice trembling. I don't know everything yet, but he kept asking about your finances, probing. When I said you had nothing big, he got distant. Dad, I ignored your warnings. I'm so sorry. We turned onto my street, the house lights welcoming in the rain, but she paused, staring out the window. There's more. He said, if I leave quietly, no fuss. But I think they're coming after something. Maybe the house, or... Wait, did Grandpa leave anything I don't know about? I glanced at her, the question hanging heavy as we approached the driveway. I handed Chloe the tissue as we drove through the rain-slicked streets of Sioux City, the wipers sweeping in steady arcs across the windshield. Here, dry your eyes, I said softly, keeping one hand on the wheel. Take your time, but tell me everything. We can't fix this if I don't know. She pressed the tissue to her face, fibers catching on her damp skin like fragile regrets. It started right after the wedding. We didn't even go on that honeymoon he promised. Said work was piling up. But yesterday... I came home early from the office, feeling off. His car was there, but the house was too quiet. I walked in and heard voices from the bedroom. Not just his. Hers. A woman from his office, I think. They were... together. I froze in the doorway, Dad. He didn't even look sorry when he saw me. Just annoyed. Like I'd interrupted something trivial. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Rage bubbled up, but I swallowed it, focusing on the road ahead, headlights piercing the fog rolling in from the Missouri River. And the divorce papers? You mentioned messages. She nodded, crumpling the tissue in her fist. After I confronted him, he shoved the papers at me. Said sign them quick, no fuss. But I grabbed his phone first, text to her, going back months. And to Caitlin, too, plotting about assets and how to secure the family fortune. He kept grilling me about Grandpa's will, asking if you'd hidden anything. I told him nothing, but he laughed, said I was blind. Dad, I should have listened to you from the start. Your warnings at that dinner... I defended him, but deep down I saw the red flags, like that text I ignored before the wedding, him joking with a friend about marrying into money. I thought it was harmless. The twist hit me like a punch. Not just infidelity, but a calculated hunt for the inheritance I'd buried away. I glanced at her, seeing the little girl I'd raised reflected in her weary eyes. Memories surfaced unbidden, kneeling at Grandpa's grave last month, vowing to shield her as he'd shielded us, his hand steady on my shoulder during those lean years after her mother's death. This isn't your fault, Chloe. He's the deceiver. We'll handle it. Lawyers, whatever it takes. You're safe now. She slipped off her wedding ring, dropping it into the cup holder with a soft clink. I feel so stupid. Rushed into it all for what? Independence? Love? It was a lie. We turned onto my street, the familiar houses blurring in the downpour. I pulled into the driveway, killing the engine. Come inside. We'll get you settled, then talk more. As she gathered her things, a distant rumble echoed, Not thunder, but an approaching car, headlights cutting through the rain like accusatory beams. The car screeched to a halt at the curb, gravel spraying under tires, and Eric jumped out, his face twisted in fury under the street lamp's harsh glow. It was early April now, just hours since I'd brought Chloe home. She'd sipped tea in the kitchen, spilling more details between sobs, then napped fitfully on the couch while I paced, my resolve hardening like steel. The confrontation I'd anticipated had arrived sooner than expected. I stepped out into the yard, the cool night air biting at my skin, positioning myself between the house and him. "Eric, turn around and leave. She's not going anywhere with you." He slammed his door, striding forward, fists balled. "Where is she? Chloe, get out here. This isn't over." His voice boomed, echoing off the neighbors' homes, a few porch lights flickering on in response. I held my ground, arms crossed. "She's inside. Safe. You betrayed her, cheated, and now you're done. Get off my property before I call the police." He laughed bitterly, stopping just short of me, rain dripping from his hair. "Safe? From what? Her own choices? She signed up for this marriage. And you, hiding whatever scraps you have? Caitlin knows people. We'll drag this out. Take what's ours. You think you're protecting her? You're just delaying the inevitable." The taunt fueled my defiance, flashing back to the wedding reception, his smug toast about progress, Caitlin's condescending nods. They'd underestimated me then and now. "Threats won't work. Leave, or I'll make that call. Chloe wants nothing from you except freedom." From the window, I caught Chloe peeking out, her hand at the curtain, eyes wide. Eric glanced her way, his expression softening falsely. "Chloe, baby, come on. We can talk this through. Your dad's filling your head with nonsense." She didn't move, and I stepped forward, voice low and firm. "She's done talking. Go." He hovered a moment longer, the twist coming as he sneered. "Fine, but I know more than you think about that old man's money. Caitlin's already on it. You'll regret this." He spun on his heel, yanking open his car door with a metallic groan, and peeled away, taillights vanishing into the night. I exhaled slowly, the yard silent again save for the patter of rain. Locking the front door behind me as I stepped inside, I turned to Chloe, who stood in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself. "He's gone. Now let's figure out the divorce papers. We'll get a lawyer first thing tomorrow." She nodded, sinking into a chair at the kitchen table, flipping open the folder she'd brought. "Okay. But Dad, what if he really knows about the inheritance? We need a plan." The next day, morning light streamed through the kitchen blinds, casting streaky shadows on the table where Chloe and I sat with hot cups of coffee. After Eric's tumultuous departure, the air in our house still hummed with unresolved tension. Chloe absent-mindedly stirred her coffee, her eyes red from a restless night. "We can't wait, Dad. These papers he gave me are full of requirements. I have to file the papers first, make it official." I nodded, setting down my mug with a soft clink. The steam rose like a veil between us. "You're right. Let's gather what we need. Marriage certificate, IDs, any joint accounts. I'll drive us to the lawyer's office downtown. Old friend of mine. Reliable." We rose together, moving through the house with purposeful steps. I pulled open the hall closet, rifling through a box of important documents, my fingers brushing the faded edges of her birth certificate and our old family photos. Chloe joined me, stacking papers on the table. Her driver's license, the wedding license we'd signed just weeks ago, now a bitter artifact. She paused over a snapshot from the reception. Her in that gown, Eric grinning beside her. Her hand trembled slightly before she tucked it away. I can't believe how blind I was, but no more. We bundled everything into a folder, the pages rustling like dry leaves, and headed out. The car doors thudded shut, and I started the engine, navigating the spring traffic along the Missouri River bluffs. Chloe stared out the window, the budding trees blurring past. What if he fights dirty? He mentioned assets again last night in his texts. Keeps assuming we're broke. "We'll cross that when we come," I said, merging onto the main road. The hum of tires on pavement steadied my thoughts, reminding me of drives with Grandpa, his voice cautioning against haste. Flashbacks flickered, Eric's wedding toast, boasting about deals and progress, his eyes glinting with unspoken ambition. I'd dismissed it then, but now it fueled my wariness. We arrived at the lawyer's office in a modest downtown building, the parking lot half full with sedans like ours. Inside, the waiting area smelled of fresh coffee and old files. The receptionist waved us back to Jim's cluttered desk, piled with folders and a half-eaten donut. Jim, a balding man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses, stood to shake hands. "Philip, Chloe. Tough spot, but we'll sort it. Sit." We settled into worn chairs, spreading the documents across his desk. Jim flipped through them, pen tapping rhythmically. "Grounds for divorce. Infidelity, from what you described. We've got texts as evidence? Good. We'll file for dissolution today. Aim for uncontested, but prepare for pushback." Chloe leaned forward, voice firm. "He cheated. Lied about everything. I want out clean. No alimony games." Jim nodded, pulling forms from a drawer. "Smart. Sign here, initial there. We'll petition the court. Hearing in a few weeks." As we worked, my phone buzzed on the desk, vibrating insistently. Eric's name flashed. I glanced at Chloe, who tensed, shoulders hunching. "Answer it. Let's hear what he says." I hit accept, putting it on speaker. "What do you want, Eric?" His voice crackled through, edged with venom. "You think you're clever? Filing already? Caitlin heard from a mutual friend. Chloe's at a lawyer's. Listen, old man, drop this. Sign the papers I gave her, or I'll bury you in court. We know you're hiding something. Debts, maybe. We'll expose it all." Chloe's eyes flashed. "Expose what? Your affair? Go ahead, Eric. I'm done with your threats." He laughed, short and harsh. "Big words. But when the judge sees how unstable she is, rushing out like that, we'll claim abandonment. And assets? We'll take the house, the car, whatever scraps you have. Caitlin's got connections." Jim motioned for calm, mouthing, "Record this." I kept steady. "Threats won't change facts. Stay away from us." I hung up, the line cutting with a beep. The room fell silent, save for the tick of a wall clock. Jim cleared his throat. "That helps our case. Harassment. I'll note it." We finished signing, the pen scratching finality onto paper. Chloe exhaled, a weight lifting slightly. "Feels like a start." Back in the car, driving home through lighter traffic, I replayed his words. Hiding something. He was fishing, but close. Thank God for the lockbox in my closet, the inheritance untouched. As we pulled into the driveway, my phone dinged again. A message from Eric. "Sue if you want. We'll win. You have no idea what's coming." I stared at the screen, the words glowing like a challenge, my mind already turning to deeper protections. A few days later, the phone rang again while I paced the living room, the afternoon sun slanting through the windows onto the worn rug. We'd spent the week in uneasy limbo, Chloe back at her job, me researching divorce basics online late into the nights, the screen's blue glow etching lines of determination on my face. Eric's voice burst through when I answered, smug and amplified. "Philip, you should have listened. I've got the best lawyers money can buy. Top firm in Omaha. They'll rip through your little filing. Chloe thinks she can walk away? We'll claim everything, assuming your Poverty Act is just that, an act." I gripped the phone tighter, standing by the window where curtains fluttered in a breeze. "Boast all you want, Eric. The truth's on our side." He chuckled, low and mocking. "Truth? Like how Chloe's the one who bolted? Caitlin's already chatting with friends. Words out she had cold feet, maybe even strayed first. People talk in this town." The line went dead, leaving a hollow echo. I set the phone down, heart thudding. Rumors, clever poison. That evening, a hesitant knock sounded at the door during dinner. Chloe paused, fork midair. "Who now?" It was Mrs. Ellis from next door, her gray hair pinned back, holding a casserole dish like a peace offering. "Philip, dear, I heard—" "Well, whispers at the bridge club. Caitlin's saying Chloe left Eric over nothing, that she's unstable. Even hinted at an affair on her side. I don't believe it, but thought you should know." Chloe joined me at the door, face paling. "That's a lie. She's twisting it to make me look bad." Mrs. Ellis nodded sympathetically. "I figured. But it's spreading. Saw it on the neighborhood Facebook group, too." She handed over the dish, the ceramic warm against my palms, and shuffled away. We closed the door, the lock clicking into place. Chloe paced now, arms crossed. "They're fighting dirty. At work today, a coworker asked if I was okay. Said she'd heard from a friend of Caitlin's about troubles. We need to hit back." I nodded, moving to my study where the computer hummed to life. "Agreed. Time to use what I've got." Fingers flying over the keys, I searched for private investigators in Sioux City. discreet ones, specializing in marital disputes. A name popped up, a former cop with good reviews. Flashbacks hit, bearing the inheritance papers months ago, Grandpa's voice echoing, "Discretion saves lives." Hiding it had been wise. Now I'd dip into a small portion anonymously. Chloe peered over my shoulder. A detective? To dig on Eric? Yes. Evidence of his affair, any financial schemes. We'll turn the tables. I dialed the number, arranging a meeting for the next day at a quiet coffee shop downtown. As we talked, an anonymous text buzzed in. "She's the cheater. Watch your back." Likely from one of their circle. The twist came that night. Chloe overheard a voicemail from a blocked number. Caitlin's voice seeping through. "Tell Philip we'll expose the family's secrets if they don't back off. I know there's more to that old man's will." She played it for me, her hand steady despite the shake in her voice. "They're desperate," I said, deleting it but noting the fear beneath their bluster. We researched more, the keyboard clicks punctuating our plans. By morning, I'd wired a retainer fee from a separate account, the transaction invisible. As I finalized the detective's appointment, a court notice arrived in the mail. Preliminary hearing set. The tide was shifting, my hidden strength ready to emerge. Late April found me in the dim light of my study in Sioux City. The court notice crumpled slightly in my hand from where I'd gripped it too hard. The preliminary hearing was set for next month, a ticking clock that amplified every shadow in the room. I set the paper down beside the lockbox I'd pulled from the closet, its metal edges cool under my fingers. Inside lay the inheritance documents, $9 million, Grandpa's legacy, hidden like a weapon in reserve. Staring at the figures, I felt a surge of resolve. It was time to wield it carefully, turning secrecy into a shield and sword. I picked up the phone, dialing the number of an elite lawyer I'd researched online, one specializing in family disputes and asset protection. The line connected after 2 rings. "Mr. Sanders? This is Elena Vasquez. How can I assist?" Her voice was crisp, professional. "I need representation for a divorce case involving potential fraud, discreetly, and resources to investigate the other party." We arranged a meeting for the next day at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, away from prying eyes. After hanging up, I wired a modest retainer from a separate account I'd set up anonymously. $50,000 to start, untraceable to the main fortune. The transaction confirmed with a soft beep on my computer, and I leaned back, mind drifting to November 2023. Grandpa on his deathbed, his hand frail in mine. "Philip, the money's for protection, not show. Use it wisely, against those who'd steal our peace." His eyes had burned with that final wisdom, the room heavy with the scent of hospital antiseptic. I'd nodded, sealing the vow. The following morning I drove to the cafe, the spring sun glinting off the Missouri River as I crossed the bridge. Blooms dotted the roadside, a deceptive calm. Inside, Elena waited at a corner booth, her dark hair pulled back, a tablet open before her. We shook hands and I slid the folder of initial filings across. Eric's pushing for assets he assumes don't exist. But there's more. Rumors, threats. I want a detective to dig deeper. She scanned the pages, nodding slowly. "Smart. I know a good one. Former FBI, specializes in financial trails. We'll uncover any improprieties." Our conversation flowed in hushed tones, her outlining strategies, counterclaims for emotional distress, evidence of infidelity to nullify his demands. I authorized another wire for the detective, the amount vanishing into digital ether. Weeks blurred as I balanced daily routines, walks along the riverfront to clear my head, where the water's steady flow mirrored my building patience with covert progress. Chloe stayed with me, her job providing structure while we awaited updates. One afternoon in early May, the detective, a burly man named Reyes, met me in a shadowed park bench downtown. He handed over a manila envelope, its seal breaking with a faint rip. Photos, timestamps, Eric's meetings with shady notaries, backdated documents suggesting asset transfers, and Caitlin's involved, bank records show bribes. I flipped through the images. Eric in a dimly lit office, signing papers with a smirking notary. A twist gripped me. One photo showed him glancing at a file labeled Sanders Estate Inquiry. They were closer than I'd thought, probing public records for Grandpa's will. "This is gold," I murmured. Reyes grunted. Enough to expose forgery in court, but play it close. Don't tip them off. Elena reviewed it all in our next session at her office, the stack of reports growing on her desk like a fortress. We'll hold this for the hearing. Let them overextend first. I signed off on more funds, locking the remaining millions away again, a symbolic act of restraint amid the storm. As the hearing approached, I drove to the courthouse for a pre-trial conference, the building's stone facade looming under gathering clouds. Chloe rode with me, her hand on my arm. "We're ready, Dad." We parked and walked up the steps, the weight of files in my briefcase a promise of reckoning. Inside, the hallway echoed with footsteps, leading us to the courtroom door where voices murmured beyond. As we entered the wood-paneled courthouse, early summer light filtered in through the tall windows. More than a year had passed since the wedding months of testimony, delays on Eric's part, and our quiet accumulation of evidence. Chloe and I filled the time with strategy sessions in Elena's office, anxious evenings watching the news, and simple routines like eating dinner together to keep our sanity. Now, settled in the hard benches, I watched the trial unfold, my pulse steady but wary. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, called the case In Re Dissolution of Marriage, Chloe Sanders versus Eric Harlan. Eric sat across the aisle with Caitlin beside him, their lawyer a slick man in a tailored suit. The bailiff swore in the first witness, the notary, a nervous-looking fellow with thinning hair, who took the stand fidgeting with his tie. Eric's lawyer approached, voice smooth and probing. "Mr. Klein, describe the document you notarized for Mr. Harlan." Klein cleared his throat, glancing at Eric. "It was a property transfer agreement. Mr. Harlan and his wife signed it, granting him rights to family assets. I verified identities, stamped it official." Murmurs rippled through the sparse audience, relatives, a few neighbors. Chloe tensed beside me, whispering, "That's forged. I never signed anything like that." Elena patted her hand, eyes on the stand. Cross-examination came swiftly. Elena rose, heels clicking on the floor. "Mr. Klein, this document, dated pre-wedding. Yet records show you weren't licensed then. Care to explain?" He shifted, sweat beading on his brow. "Must be a mix-up. I remember the signing clearly." Elena pressed, sliding a photo across. "Our detectives find." Time-stamped. "This you, accepting cash from Mrs. Harlan days before? Bribe, perhaps?" Objection flew from their side. "Speculative!" But the judge overruled, her gaze sharpening. "Answer the question," Klein stammered. "It was a loan. Unrelated." The room hushed, the creak of benches amplifying the lie's fragility. Caitlin testified next, her posture rigid, voice dripping condescension. "Chloe was unstable from the start. Left abruptly. Spread rumors about my son. That transfer? She agreed to it verbally. We formalized for protection." Elena countered sharply. "Protection from what? Your son's infidelity? We have messages proving otherwise." She presented printouts, the paper rustling as the judge reviewed them. Eric leaned forward during a recess, hissing across the aisle. "Give up, Philip. We'll take it all. House, savings, Chloe's word against ours." I met his stare evenly. Words crumble under truth. Flashbacks to the detective's reports echoed. Bribes traced to Caitlin's accounts. Eric's affairs documented in detail. Back in session, their lawyer paraded a character witness, a colleague smearing Chloe as impulsive. She bolted without reason, probably hiding her own secrets. Chloe squeezed my hand, her resolve shining through. Elena dismantled it with cross questions. "And you witnessed this, or heard from Mr. Harlan?" The twist landed mid-testimony. Klein recalled, faltered under cross-examination. Elena produced a recorded confession, obtained legally by our detective, where Klein admitted to forging the signature for payment. The judge admitted the recording as evidence, overruling objections from Eric's team, who claimed it was coerced. Klein's silence on the stand spoke volumes. Gasps filled the air, the judge banging for order. Elena turned to the bench. "Your Honor, we have more. Financial trails proving premeditated fraud." She rose with our folder, the room tensing as she approached, papers in hand poised to unravel their web. Elena stepped forward in the Sioux City courtroom that May Day in 2025, her folder of proofs held high like a banner of truth. The judge leaned in, glasses perched on her nose, as the gallery held its collective breath. "Your Honor, these exhibits dismantle their claims," Elena declared, voice steady and incisive. She handed over the stack: detective reports, bank statements tracing bribes, audio transcripts from hidden recordings. The judge flipped through, pages whispering under her fingers. Eric shifted in his seat, face paling, while Caitlin gripped the armrest, her knuckles whitening. Their lawyer jumped up. "Objection! Chain of custody unclear. These could be fabricated." "Overruled," the judge snapped, her tone brooking no argument. "Proceed, Ms. Vasquez." Elena nodded, projecting an audio clip via the courtroom speakers. Klein's voice crackled through. "Yeah, I'll backdate it for the right price. Make it look legit." Gasps echoed from the benches, light from the windows shifting across shocked faces, illuminating the unraveling deceit. Eric leaned toward Caitlin, whispering urgently, but she shushed him with a sharp glare. I sat beside Chloe, my hand on hers, feeling her pulse race. Flashbacks surged, the detective's late-night call weeks ago, detailing that very recording from a planted device in their meeting spot. "Got him on tape," he'd said gruffly. Now it paid off. The judge paused, tapping her pen rhythmically. "This evidence suggests perjury and fraud. The property transfer is invalid, stricken from record." She turned to Klein on the stand. "You contradicted yourself earlier. Explain." He mumbled, eyes darting. It was a mistake. They pressured me." Protests erupted from Eric's side, his lawyer slamming a fist lightly on the table. "This is entrapment. We demand a mistrial." "Denied," the judge retorted, her gavel thudding once for emphasis. "Furthermore, I'm referring this to the district attorney for charges of forgery and bribery against Mr. Harlan, Mrs. Harlan, and Mr. Klein." Caitlin stood abruptly, voice rising in a controlled hiss. "You can't do this. We had reasons. Protection from their instability." Elena countered swiftly. "Reasons like greed? Your financial trails show premeditation, probing for assets you assumed existed." She laid out more proofs, emails plotting the notary scheme, dated before the wedding. The twist unfolded as the audio played a second clip, Caitlin's voice. "Once we secure the inheritance through marriage, we'll flip it." The room tensed further, murmurs swelling. Eric slumped, burying his face in his hands. "No, that's taken out of context," he muttered weakly. The judge reviewed silently for a moment, the clock ticking audibly in the hush. Divorce granted to petitioner. No asset division to respondent. Court costs on Mr. Harlan. Bailiff, escort Mr. Klein for questioning. The notary rose shakily, cuffs clicking as security approached. As the session adjourned, I exchanged a glance with Chloe, her eyes shining with vindication, mine with quiet triumph. We gathered our things, stepping into the hallway where echoes of the gavel faded, her hand squeezing my arm in wordless thanks. We walked down the courthouse steps into the late May sunshine of Sioux City, the warmth seeping through our clothes like a balm after the chill of confrontation. Chloe paused at the bottom, turning to me with a deep breath. "Dad, I don't know how we afforded Elena and that detective. You must have scraped every penny. Let me pay you back somehow." I smiled faintly, guiding her toward the car parked across the street. "No need. There's more to tell." We slid into the seats, the engine humming to life as I pulled onto the road. Familiar streets rolling by, blooming trees lining the way home, a contrast to the storm we'd weathered. The drive passed in thoughtful silence, her gaze out the window, mine on the horizon. At home, we settled in the living room, the fading light casting golden hues through the curtains. I rose, moving to the study desk where the lockbox waited. "Chloe, sit. It's time you knew." She perched on the couch edge, brows furrowed. "Knew what? You've already done so much. Raising me alone, fighting this." I unlocked the box with a soft click, pulling out the envelope marked Estate of Harold Sanders. Grandpa left us secure. $9 million from his investments. He passed in late 2023, remember? I hid it after the will reading, sensing trouble with Eric. Her eyes widened, hands flying to her mouth. $9 million? Dad? Why keep it secret? We struggled. Bills. The house. I sat beside her, spreading the papers on the coffee table, their crinkles filling the quiet room. For protection, Grandpa warned me on his deathbed. Users will come sniffing. That hospital room, his voice weak but firm, echoing his fishing trips with us, teaching caution. When Eric probed at dinners, smirking about futures, I knew. Hiding it saved us from their grasp. She traced the figures, tears welling. All this time, you let them think we were broke, endured their jabs. For me. Always for you, I said softly, pulling her into a hug, her shoulders relaxing against mine. Flashbacks wove in, Grandpa's cozy den, chess pieces clacking as he shared stories of savvy deals, his eyes twinkling. He built it quietly, for family. Now it's ours to heal, to build. The twist came as she flipped a page, finding a note in Grandpa's handwriting. Philip, tell Chloe, when safe, legacy of strength, not just money. She laughed through tears. He knew. Those stories he told me as a kid, about spotting fakes. It ties together. We talked into the evening, sharing memories over tea, steam curling like released burdens. What now? She asked, voice hopeful. With this, we can start fresh. Maybe a trip, like those lakes he loved. I nodded, gathering old albums from the shelf, photos spilling out, us three in happier times. As we leafed through, the future unfolded before us, bound by enduring ties and hard-won peace. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.